Hi everyone, welcome back to the PM Schools YouTube channel. Today I'm delighted to host Pranav Pathak with us. He is the Group Product Manager at Booking.com Netherlands. So thank you so much, Pranav, for coming on our channel. How are you doing?
I'm doing good and thank you for having me. I'm super excited. This is kind of the first free form conversation that I'm doing. Most of the time, it's usually structured. So, this is exciting for me.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be equally exciting for all of us as well. Okay, so let's start with the basic question, right? So, what are the qualities or what are the skills that you assess the candidates on, especially when you're looking at them from a product manager lens?
Okay, so this has a bunch of answers, right? The first, some just general level capabilities that every product manager, in my opinion, should have. How well you ask questions, what specific questions you ask, and then based on the questions that you've asked, how well you formulate a problem. That's always critical. So, can you actually arrive from a super ambiguous, super blue sky sort of problem statement to something that's a lot more structured, something that you can actually go and build with? That's super critical. Second, how well you understand data, right? And not like you don't have to be a data scientist per se, you don't have to know too much statistics, but can you look at data and make sense out of it and derive insights from it? So that's our second, like that's my at least second most important variable while looking at a product manager. Third, I'm looking at someone who can challenge my thought process, right? Or anyone's thought process for that matter. They should be able to walk into a room, ask questions, ask why something is happening, give their own opinions. And then once they have formed their opinion, they should also be open to revising their opinion, either based on new data or based on what they're seeing happening. So just really open, transparent communication, asking questions, answering questions, and just kind of making sure the flow of communication within the team is present, is persistent, and that extends then to stakeholder management. Are you open, honest, transparent with your stakeholders? Have you clearly communicated to them what you need from them, what your timelines for deliverables are, what they should expect from you, and how well you keep them in the loop as well, just so that everything outside of your team also kind of keeps moving seamlessly. So those are kind of the general high level qualities that I believe every product manager should have, and I test for them quite rigorously. The rest of it becomes a little bit more specific, right? If it's someone who I'm hiring straight out of college, if it's for like a starter product manager position, then this is pretty much the set I'll look at and nothing else. I don't expect them to have product management experience or to have done something else. But if I'm hiring someone to be a full-fledged product manager, then I do usually look at some years of experience, and that doesn't have to mean you've had the product manager title for an X years, but it does mean that you know how the product process works. You've seen it before, and you have at least a few side projects that you've done with that product manager hat on. Um, a lot of times when hiring, PM roles are fairly specific, right? So we're looking for someone who's good with payments, or someone who's good with machine learning, or someone who's done infrastructure or conversion optimization. And that's usually a symptom of how fast we want the product manager to join. I could very well hire a generalist product manager and they'll fit in, but they'll just have a higher ramp up time. Like, I've never done payments before. So if someone tells me, okay, build a payments product, yeah, I can do it, but then give me 3 months time to ramp up, right? And a lot of times when we're hiring for product managers, we don't have that flexibility. So we have this requirement of, okay, five 5 months, 6 months, 1 year experience in payments, or have shipped and built payment products or machine learning products. Um, so that's usually a symptom of that. It also depends upon the scale of the company that you're applying for. Um, a scaled up large company usually operates very differently from a startup.
Yeah.
So if we're so if we're hiring for someone who wants to join a startup, then like previous startup experience, or just having worked at or having done something in a startup, that's always helpful. And if we're hiring for like if I'm hiring for Booking, or if Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook are hiring, then that's a different set of competencies. Then we don't want someone who will take the product 0 to 1. We want someone who has that experience delivering consistently on a large user base. So those are kind of the variables. A lot of the hiring is super specific to the role and the company, but just in general, good clear thinking, good communication, ability to structure a problem statement, and the ability to execute on that.
Yeah, wonderful pointers. And I completely agree, right? Because more often than not, a product manager is struggling between teams and stakeholders, and everybody is coming from very different thought processes. So, for someone or to actually make sense of all of those thought processes and then translate that into something that's fruitful for the product is very essential. So, on that
Exactly.
note, how essential do you think are frameworks, right? Whenever a candidate is coming to an interview, do you assess them on the structure or a specific framework that's there? Because a lot of PM aspirants, they ask me that, can you give us framework for a root cause analysis? Can you give us a framework for a metrics question? So can you throw some light on that?
So absolutely essential, right? You should have a framework for everything when you're approaching an interview. And the interviewer doesn't care for what framework you're using as long as you're using some framework.
Sure.
And that's important because then you don't get stuck in your solution. Then you don't like if we were doing a product question now and we were brainstorming, okay, let's do conversion optimization for Amazon, right? It's such a blue sky problem. It's so wide. I could start at one thing and then just easily go into a rabbit hole that takes me too deep, and then I can't come out of it in an interview. So having that framework that would already just filter out some of my bad ideas, that would already give structure to like what I'm doing and show my thought process to the interviewer, that's super important. Again, when you're in an interview, nobody cares about what your end solution is, right? As long as you can justify it, all we want to see is the thought process, like where you calculated when you were making your estimates, where you logical, was there a flow to the thought process? That's what's important. And a framework just kind of brings all of that to you instantly without you having to try. So if you're just going through the framework and you know how to use it, you're a lot more coherent for the interviewer.
Definitely. Right. That actually answers, I think, a lot of people's questions. So, there are certain specific products, or let's say certain industries, right? Now, when we talk about a product manager role, it is a general role. We usually would check the product thinking and the qualities that you mentioned. But sometimes the hiring is for a very specific niche product or a product suite, right? So how does one approach the preparation of those kind of interviews?
Okay. So first off, tailor your resume to the position that you're applying for, right? If there is a position that's in a specific niche, make sure that go through the job description, see exactly what they need, see what you've done in your past life that kind of fits those requirements and bring them out. Like if I were applying for that payments position that I talked about, I'm not going to brag about how good I am at data science, right? That doesn't matter for that position. So I have to craft an entirely new resume that highlights my experience and my skills in the payments domain. Or if I'm interviewing for like a people manager role, then my experience in people management. So being super specific and crafting out that actual job profile and the resume based on that job profile, that's super important. That does mean that you can apply to far fewer positions than you would, but it makes the applications a lot more targeted, right? So like you could apply to 100 positions with your generic resume and then you get like one short list. But if you've kind of tailored it exactly to what the position needs, highlighted your experiences from what the position needs, then like there's a 50% chance you'll at least get to a recruiter conversation, which is much higher than that 1% chance you were taking. So tailor that resume. That's one. Second, if you're applying to a specific company and if it's large enough to have like a question bank of what's been asked in past interviews, do all of that. Um, if it's B2B versus B2C, it's going to be completely different interviews. So be careful of like what you choose.
Yeah.
Usually it's like super difficult to go from a B2B to a B2C product manager and vice versa because the considerations are just so different. Um, so yeah, like the general thought process remains the same, but B2B is a lot more emphasis on stakeholder management and stakeholder relationships. B2C, external stakeholders don't matter as much because you can see consumer data, right? Your end user is your external stakeholder and you can see coherent data for them. B2C, you can't. So how do you approach those? How do you invest in user research? That becomes a lot more important for B2C roles. So yeah, just like in summary, go through the job description, see what they need, get your past life experiences into that resume.
Yeah, and I followed the same strategy. Okay, so now shifting gears a bit, right? How should a product manager define metrics for any product they are building, and how should they be prioritized?
Okay, that is a super loaded question. It's going to be a longish answer, so just cut me off and stop me whenever.
No
Okay.
worries.
Um, so yeah, before even touching metrics, it's important to understand what the goal of the product is and why you're building it, right? What's it going to accomplish for the end user? What's it going to accomplish for the business? From there, it's important to go into what are the steps that a user needs to take to get to that goal. Like if you're building e-commerce, like yeah, the goal is increase the number of transactions, right? And that's good for the user because there are more transactions. That means the user is actually happy with our product, and that's good for business because more transactions equals growth. So then it's important to think about what is that journey that drives these transactions, right? Like a user comes on the platform, they browse a few products, they select a product. From there on, they do their checkout flow. From there on, they get their product delivery, and then they're either happy or they return the product, right? So once you have all of these steps mapped out, set up a measurement for each of these flows. Um, so how many users land on the website? That's your impact of external marketing or your impact of user retention. How many of those users actually browse a product? How many of them actually initiate a checkout process? How many of them return a product? How many of them just don't get a product delivered to them because something in our logistics is failing? So just going through that process and crafting out this list of secondary metrics. And regardless of how small a part you're doing, like if you're working at Amazon, you're not going to be working on this entire funnel, right? You're going to be working on like one tiny homepage bit, and it'll be super impactful, but it's going to be a small part of the process. So regardless of where you are, you should always map out this entire journey,
Yeah.
because that gives you the full clear perspective of what the business is actually accomplishing, and it helps you find your place in the wider business as well. So once you've done this, you have your primary metric that you want to impact. You have your list of secondary metrics. Then I would go into the smaller funnel that I'm actually responsible for, chart that out in lots and lots of detail, and that
Sure.
gives me the entire funnel of what happens when someone enters my feature until what happens when they exit my feature. And then I would set tracking around all of these funnel metrics, all of the secondary metrics that we talked about, and the primary metric. And more often than not, I can't probably impact that primary metric because I'm in charge of that small portion of the product. In which case, I should default to a secondary metric that I know for sure translates into my primary metric. It's so it takes time, but you don't have to do it too often. Like when you've designed your metrics, they stay with you for 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely, and it's I think it's also very tightly knit with the goals, right? So not
Mhm.
every product is made to achieve all the goals, be it acquisition, retention, engagement, targeting a certain group of customers. So yeah, I think that correlated to the goals, and you might have better clarity on what exactly do you want to run after.
Exactly. And then just the goal becomes like to hit that primary metric that we've decided, which is super unique to our product and not damage any of the others, right? So
Yeah.
if you're doing your job right, everyone else in the funnel is doing their job right, you're going to have a funnel that grows. So just the only thing to look out for is don't damage anyone else's metrics. That's all.
Yeah. Definitely, that's a very fair point, and it often happens in big product companies where every PM is trying to achieve something, and it ends up affecting the other metric.
Exactly.
Sure. So now there's a very burning question that I get asked a lot, and I'll take a shot at asking you that: is technical knowledge extremely essential to become a successful product manager?
So absolutely not. Okay. I did my computer science degree and all of the jazz that comes with that. It has not been useful. The first time I actually heard of what an API is was on my day one of product management, right? So none of the knowledge that I had back from my computer science degree was ever useful. Second, like in India, a lot of product managers come from tech backgrounds, and that kind of gives it this generalization. But here at Booking or at pretty much any product company in Europe, most product managers are not from a technical background. They're
Okay.
from a business background. And that works fairly well for them as long as they know how data flows in the system, as long as they grasp the basics on the job, they're fine. They're not obstructed by some deeper understanding of tech that they miss. And then also, like you're fresh out of university with a tech degree, you still have some retention of that knowledge. three
Yeah.
years down, none of us remember what we actually learned in a degree, right? So everyone's on a level playing field like that. So it doesn't matter at all.
Definitely, and so I am also an engineer, but I've never worked as an engineer. Firstly, and I did not know ABCs of coding. The only thing I think that matters is that if you are a product manager, one of your major stakeholder team is going to be the engineering team or the
Yeah,
building team, right? So you need to be at least on the same page when they are talking technical terms. You should be able to understand those, and you should not be blindly asking questions which are irrelevant, or you should not be the burden on the team, right? I think if till that level you're able to achieve that much understanding, I think you're good.
exactly. That's really well put, right? As long as you can have a conversation with your team.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Great. So I think this was all from my side. I highly appreciate you being here with us, and I hope we can collaborate in future. By the way, for all of you, I will link Pranav's LinkedIn here. I just recently saw he has shared a newsletter, and he shares some amazing, very useful content on product management. So do have a look at it, and you can comment below to ask any questions to Pranav or me. Thank you so much for tuning in to our channel.